Welcome to the 4Cs podcast for SAP Business One, brought to you by Third Wave Business Systems. I'm Mike Ham, and my colleague Tyson McMurrin, bringing you a podcast that takes a deeper dive into the ERP system that is SAP Business One. We'll be hosting product experts and members of the Business One community, helping you, a Business One user, get the most out of SAP Business One. Hello and welcome back. We have episode 12 here, Connect and Control. We're going to be talking about integration and looking below the surface. Tyson, let's start by talking about, why this is relevant to the Business One crowd here, and really what is integration? What's it mean to them? What's it mean to us?
Yeah, so integration is really about having two separate systems connect at some level and to be able to pass data from one to the other.
Absolutely. And getting these systems to talk to each other is a really big thing in today's, because we talk about the connected enterprise. We talk about staying connected. The world is that word connect, right? It's a huge buzzword nowadays. And so you look at the word connect and I can't help but not think of integration and how our systems internally are interacting with each other, how we're being able to share the data and make it accessible to everyone who needs to access that. I mean, we think a lot about that here at Third Wave.
Yeah, and Mike, it's interesting, that it is a common word that we kind of hear. Obviously, with us being on, the side of helping customers do this on a day-to-day basis, we probably hear it more than the typical SAP Business One customer until they have a need for it. But one of the important things when you start talking about integration is, the slide here that we're looking at right now, it says look below the surface, and the reason that we're going to talk about integration and looking below the surface is really historically integration has been, as I said, just connecting one set of data and putting it into another, and normally you would have somebody that kind of has like a development capability that would build this integration and monitor it. And SAP Business One has tools that allow you to integrate and bring data in. There's a handful of them. Some of them are manual process where it's like, copy paste or import. And those are integrations as well. Just getting data in from Excel into SAP or from a clipboard into SAP as well. But when you start thinking about integrations and what it is that you want to do within your organization, it's generally beyond just a copy paste. So typically in the SAP Business One space, where we see people wanting integrations is either items within e-commerce and orders within e-commerce, or maybe they want business partners between, some kind of CRM system, or they want orders on their CRM system or service tickets on their service system. And those integrations typically are going to be a one-way integration where SAP Business One is going to be the master of the customer information, and the e-commerce site's going to be the master for the item information. And from time to time, customers are going to want a two-way integration, and historically that's been fairly complex because you would have to kind of determine, which system is going to be the system of record, right? And which one is going to be the system that's accepting that record. And a lot of the integration requirements nowadays are really beyond that, where it's this dynamic moving connection between systems, and that integration needs to be able to handle, more than just a one-way integration, as it's typically called, Mike.
And that's been a huge challenge, right, for Business One customers. I hear, or rather, I heard that a lot with the Business One conference, and a lot of users, just what you said there. They would come to find partners or to find other customers that had done just those things: connect to e-commerce, connect for better orders, connect for a CRM, and figure out how they did that. Because, right, when you bring SAP Business One into your organization and use that as your core, you already had a number of other, systems operating before, or they're going to be running in conjunction with SAP Business One, and you got to make sure that that's seamless, and that's not an easy thing to do, right?
Right. And then you're also going to have things like SAP Business One customer number can only be so many characters long.
Yep.
And your other system can be so many characters long, and those aren't going to align, Mike. So these are where, I really recommend looking at the swim lane of where that data is going, where your data capture points are, and where you want those integration points to be. And that's going to kind of help you with understanding, the flow of how the integration should work. But further to that, the one that I just talked about, Mike, is you can see that's the first thing kind of underneath the surface of integrations not being the same, and that is error handling, right? Well,
Yeah.
What happens if your integration has that, where an item number or a business partner record ID or description or something is longer than what it can be? Has the system, has the integration thought of that? A, and B, if it hasn't thought of it, what happens when that error is out, right? Is there resilience around that error handling? Are you getting an email letting you know that the integration failed? Do you have a way to resubmit that record, or do you have to resubmit the whole batch, or do you have to go through some kind of like error book and get somebody to extrapolate what the record pieces are in some comma separated or hyphen separated, or whatever the record flat file is in that error handling, if you even have error handling, Mike.
Exactly.
To be able to go in and make sure that you get that record in, because the last thing you want is somebody calling you saying, hey, I placed an order on your website, where's my tracking number? And it's like, you don't even have that order.
Exactly. It didn't even go through because that integration piece didn't allow for you to even be notified. I mean, these are things that, before you go through an integration like this, sound great. The meeting, oh, no problem. These systems will talk to each other. You'll be able to input data, but these are the things why it's important to work with a partner who's cognizant of these things, who's just what we're talking about, looking at the integration below the surface and understanding these are the hangups, right? Getting a system to talk to one another. I don't want to call that the easy part, but that's step one, right? But there's a lot of things below that we need to keep top of mind, because when they go wrong, like you said, now you have a customer who doesn't even have an order. I mean, imagine what you look like on the phone in that scenario if your system's not, like you said, indicating it via email, or you're going to have to resubmit a whole batch.
Yeah, and REST and SOAP integration scripts have been available for a long time to be able to get data and do those things. And it's a good point that you brought up, we being the SAP Business One experts, we know what those records are, and generally we've connected to these different systems in the past, and we have the experience, and then it's just a matter of really looking at what specifically it is that you want to do as the SAP Business One customer. But one of the big things, on this record handling on an integration standpoint is a lot of times there's additional information that needs to be handled, after you get the record into SAP Business One, or into some other integration middle spot where you need to do something with it. And that's where, really looking under the surface and seeing if there's any way for process automation to be able to handle that step. And the buzzword out there, Mike, is robotic process automation, or RPA. Yep. But really what it is just, instead of a human doing that next step, if the system can logically do that, you want to look for integration tools that have, process automation and RPA capabilities, so that, when you're looking at that swim lane, you can eliminate those touch points where all you're doing is simple addition or simple summarization, or anything that a robotic process automation tool can handle. Putting that back into the integration tool really is going to kind of help you with the growth strategy around your business. And I mean, obviously, if I'm selling things on an e-commerce site, I'm going to be a subject matter expert in regards to the products that I'm selling, and I'm certainly not going to be an integration expert.
Yep.
But you really do want to look for tools that have that RPA capability, Mike.
And I'm glad you brought that up, right? Because we talked about integration's difficult. We pointed out, where you can go wrong and what's beneath the surface of an integration, and RPA, that's a way to fix that. Particularly if you're processing tons of orders, you certainly don't want to go in there manually and resubmit everything. If, like you said, you have something as simple as just, a number or a form fill might be too large for one system or the other to submit that. So that's good that folks should know that, right? That there's tools out there that you can deploy so that you're not the one manually fixing these integration challenges. What are some other things to keep in mind below the surface?
Yeah, Mike, you actually just hit it, and that was, you're handling tons of orders.
Yep.
So, what is tons of orders? Well, in the integration space, some of the tools that are out there, basically will charge you for the number of items that you integrate or the number of orders that are handled. Yep. And basically, anytime you have an integration touch point, it's doing a record count, and it's going to send you a bill based off of the record count. So, if you're selling something and then all of a sudden, it really takes off, and this growth that you as a small business have been waiting for, that's going to take you to that next level.
Oh yeah.
All of a sudden now, you have this scalable cost with a system that's charging you, based off of each piece. So, you want to look for integration tools that really have a predictable cost model, so that kind of what your upfront costs are, but you also know what your month-over-month costs are, and if there's any hidden costs, such as, transaction counts, because that one can kind of get you where it's like, all of a sudden now you're handling tons of orders, Mike, and you think you're making lots of money, and then you get your bill at the end of the month for integration, and you go, well, that was a waste of time.
Yep.
So, and I mean, that's kind of where, we talk about the growth and those types of things. And that's where, really making sure that your SAP processes match up with the integration step, and you're not having all these extra touch points that we were just talking about, because same thing, all of a sudden you end up with tons of orders. Well, you don't want to have to, go on a hiring spree to be able to handle, fixing data or entering in fulfillment numbers because you only have a one-way integration and not a two-way integration between your e-commerce site, for example, and your SAP Business One system, where all you were doing before is just pulling down the orders, and then somebody's going in and entering in the tracking number and all of that on your e-commerce site. So that's where really looking at your SAP Business One workflows and making sure that they're aligned and scalable. And when we start talking about growth, a lot of companies that are growing, you might be using Magento, for example, right now as your e-commerce site, and you want to switch from Magento into Shopify. Well, if a lot of the integration tools that are out there, maybe they only had a Magento integration and they don't have a Shopify integration, or maybe they do, but that's a separate module that you have to buy. You want to be able to make sure that you have the flexibility to adjust and align with where the marketing team is going, or where the leadership team is taking the company, whether that's in the SAP Business One space right now, we're seeing a lot of vertical integrations where our customers are looking to buy their suppliers or have bought their suppliers during the pandemic so that they could secure their supply chain, Mike. So now all of a sudden you have multiple different types of business models that you need integration tools for. And you really want to make sure that you can kind of work with a single integration tool that can handle a multitude of integration types, and also being able to be scalable, whether that's through growth strategy or through transaction count, like we talked about.
And I'm really glad you gave that example. The switching from Magento to Shopify, right? That's another thing to keep in mind when thinking about integrations is that you want that, and you said it. I think you said flexible was the word you used. But what this really comes down to is the planning of it all, right? You want your business needs met now, while also being prepared for the future. And if you think of integration and the integration tools that you use in the same way that you're thinking about your SAP system, you're going to be prepared for that, because you're going to understand that, I'm on, e-commerce platform XYZ now, but if I scale, or if I grow larger, what if I want to take a step into a different platform? Is the integration that I currently have, does it not only support, or does it ding me? Does it penalize me for being more successful, like you mentioned, more transactions? Or does it even support or feature the ability for me to change platforms or change, where my integration's pointed to? And we haven't even talked about this yet, but is this documented? Is this supported? Right? Are all these things, is this handled by, a proven SAP partner that knows these things? Because that's the importance of working with someone like us at Third Wave, in that we understand these things. We understand the documentation that goes in it. We understand that your business needs are going to change. I mean, I hope they do, right? You don't want to stay the exact same. Ideally, businesses are going to want to grow. They're going to want to change. And it's so important to have your integration tool be able to do that with you. And I'm glad that you brought up that example to show just that.
And Mike, what you just talked about really kind of makes me think of another example that I've seen all too many times, at SAP user conferences, and that is, the company had a guy or a girl, or the company had the person that handled all of that, and lo and behold, that person got a job somewhere else,
and then they left, right?
Retires or left, and you have no idea what they built.
Exactly.
So making sure that you understand what, not only what the integration is doing, but is it written in .NET and not even documented? And now all of a sudden, if you need another developer to make a small change, you're going to spend hundreds, if not thousands of hours having a developer go through strings and strings and strings of code to really kind of understand what exists before being able to implement the change or the piece that needs to be added into the existing integration. And sometimes even, the developer that, initially did that coding, if they did that coding quickly, they may not even remember, fully what it is that they did.
Yep, and you hit the nail on the head, right? That's the nightmare scenario. We see that, you saw that, I saw that time and time again. And folks listening to this will probably say, "Oh no, not me, not my business. We would not do that." But next thing you know, like something changes quickly, or you got to make a quick pivot, right? Because you're a small business, you've identified a gap here. Okay, quick, just write it, get it up and running right now, just so we can get something going now. But stop, wait. You got to be cognizant of that opportunity. That opportunity is exactly what we're talking about, and exactly the opportunity to just stop for a moment, make a call to a trusted partner, and understand that there's things right now that you're not seeing in that. If this is going to be scalable, if this is going to be something that you're going to continue to use, this is going to cost you so much more in headaches and untangling. And I mean, you want to talk about consulting hours, just understanding how to unravel this is going to cost you way more than if you go and do this the right way, some way that's scalable, some way that's flexible, and some way that has your future needs in mind. And that's the biggest point I think that we're trying to talk about beneath the surface here, is that you can cause yourself a heck of a lot more headaches thinking that you have a quick fix, when in actuality, it's not. It's going to be a bigger headache than you realize.
Yeah, and I think that kind of summarizes it up, Mike, is if you have integrations that exist, look below the surface of those integrations and ask some of these hard questions, because maybe some of the tool sets that you already have in place can handle some of that below the surface.
Yep.
And just asking the question is going to position you to be in a much better space than that nightmare scenario that you talked about before. But the other side is if you are growing, or if you are looking to switch integrations, look below the surface when you're evaluating integration tools, and obviously talk to us, because we can certainly help you with your integration needs, and really kind of help you ultimately continue focusing on what's important, that is your growth and your success. And that's one of the big things that we at Third Wave are really all about, which is we're passionate about technology, and we're focused on your success. And integration is one of those areas that we just don't want you to see that nightmare scenario that we used as an example today.
And absolutely, Tyson. We covered what an integration is, and talked about how systems have got to talk back to the core in one form or another. You want a connected business, and the integration is just that. We highlighted why that is a complex scenario facing small businesses, because obviously you're going to need different tools depending upon what type of business you have, and with that comes along the integration's got to be strong, it's got to be flexible, and it's got to set you up for growth. It's got to set you up to be adaptable, and you got to understand that has to be documented. Now, with all of this being said, this isn't as complicated as you might think, right? This can be done in low and no code options by talking to a trusted partner and in us at Third Wave. So please call us with any integration questions. Let us know examples that you've come across, challenges that you're facing, and we'd love to hear all about it and help you with integration needs. So Tyson, thank you as always.
Yeah, thank you, listeners. Take care and stay connected.
As the original SAP Business One Gold Partner in North America, Third Wave Business Systems in Wayne, New Jersey partners with hundreds of growing businesses, and we work hard to ensure that every one of them is grounded in the 4 C's. With SAP Business One at the core. Connected with their business ecosystem, enabling everyone to communicate with the core, and empowered with the control needed to thrive in a digital world. The 4 C's, Third Wave, and you. Talk to us.